Blerdlines Podcast, and we are here with Alessandra Ferrari, who is the head of content at Wattpad. You can start by giving us a sort of an overview of the forum and sort of the platform that Wattpad provides.
Wattpad is a storytelling app. We've been around since 2006, so we're coming up on 20 years being on the internet, which is obviously a long time.
Yes.
And it's a place for writers to share their work. They can write serialized fiction, fan fiction, any type of genre, anything you want. So it's a really flexible, great tool for writers and readers to find each other.
Nice.
Yeah.
From The Kissing Booth, My Life with Walter Boys, Light as a Feather, Wattpad has a track record of turning community hits into mainstream IP. What would you say is the single most important signal in a story that makes it adaptation worthy?
Great question. So Wattpad kind of mixes storytelling with social interaction. It's definitely a social reading platform. When you think about how you read normally, like your stories, you're sitting on the couch or you're on your computer and you're by yourself. But when you're reading on Wattpad, you're reading with fans from all over the world, and you can comment on the stories as well. We have a great inline commenting feature, so you can literally comment like line by line on the parts of the story that you love and engage with other readers and with the author at the same time. So when we're looking at stories that we think could be great in adaptation, we're looking at the fans first. I think that audience-driven approach is such a great one because it's very easy for someone in a boardroom away from everybody else to say what's cool, what's not cool, what they want to see, what they don't want to see, right? That's a very obvious, like, traditional way of looking at things.
Sure.
On Wattpad, we get to break down those walls a little bit more, and we literally just go right to the audience that's already built in. And when I think from like the value proposition from a writer perspective, you could have a brilliant story and it sits in a drawer until maybe an agent sees it, maybe someone looks at it, and it's a big maybe. But on Wattpad, you don't have to wait for someone to deem your work worthy. You can post it on the platform, you can find some readers, you can connect around it, and then suddenly that becomes enticing because it has a built-in fan base or a built-in audience. That reader-writer relationship really is at the crux of why we look at our content as being kind of like an alternative and interesting way of looking at what to adapt next and where to find the next big hit.
What's the engagement like as far as the fan community and what have you?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, a great commenting feature. It's like really unique where you can almost, like, you know how you would live tweet like your reaction to something? You can literally live react to a story. And the nice thing too is it's like almost a time capsule. You can comment on a story that was written 5 years ago and like follow up on another comment. So you're kind of getting this like timeless interaction with your readers. And the other part that's kind of nice is their author will often respond back. So they're building a reader-writer relationship, which also kind of helps to seed fandoms. You might be engaging on a story that has its own built-in fandom already, or you might be building one in real time, which is kind of nice. And that's kind of what we've seen with The Kissing Booth and My Life with the Walter Boys, where they kind of got to build their own fandoms that then migrated over to the screen.
One of the debates that we constantly have on our podcast is, fan fiction's okay, fan fiction's not okay. You have the George R.R. Martins of the world that discourage it, and then there are other people who are like, oh man, it's a wide open canvas, do your thing, expand the universe, we're happy to have you as part of our expanded community. So, talk to me about a little bit more about the fan fiction aspect.
Yeah, I mean, fan fiction is a really great facet of fandom. It is in the same world as like cosplaying or fanzines, and it really is about participating in that fandom and like really just like putting your passion on the page. What we find on Wattpad across both fan fiction and original fiction is it's often a place where writers are saying, I'm not really seeing myself reflected, or I'm not seeing, this isn't in my brain of what I'm seeing. So fan fiction kind of gives you the power to create your own narratives in a world that you already love and take inspiration from there.
What trends are you sensing in terms of what fandoms want in terms of tone, representation, format, that didn't exist a few years ago?
Oh, that's a good question. Wattpad kind of acts a little bit like a mirror to pop culture. So it takes inspiration from pop culture and then it brings it on the platform, remixes it, changes it in its own way, its own flavor. But this is kind of the first time where I've actually seen pop culture reflect Wattpad stuff back to it. So a lot of the things that, I've been at the platform for a long, long time, and there were a lot of romance tropes or like specific narratives that people weren't really taking seriously as being actual drivers of fandom. But now we're seeing that actually spill out into book talk and onto like different screens everywhere. And it's the first time where I'm like, of course that is what people are interested in, because finally there's less of a stigma around just enjoying what you love. I think fandom's so accessible now, and it's global. You can look at, Korean content so easily, whereas before you'd have to wait for something to be on like cable TV.
Or you'd have to pirate it or something
Totally.
like that.
And I think so now we have access, and we are so spoiled with so much content that we're able to find these niches and these spaces and our communities regardless of where anybody lives and regardless of the access that we might previously not have had. So that's kind of shaped where everyone is like, I'm just going to find what I love, and I'm going to shamelessly, unabashedly love it.
Sure.
And I will find my people that way. So I feel like that's been a nice thing that Wattpad's always kind of done, but we're now seeing it kind of reflected across pop culture at large.
And that's a big deal, because communities like this definitely give people a sense of expression, a place to, a place where they belong, and then a community where they can sort of bounce ideas and share fandom with each other.
Everyone's a fan of something, right?
Yes.
And now it's no longer something you have to hide. You can be really, really open, and you kind of get to build that community sense, which is, a really big positive, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Wattpad sits on a huge volume of serialized chapter-by-chapter storytelling. In terms of how you evaluate pacing, character arcs, for adaptation, and what difference do you see in how it's consumed versus a more, say, anthology-based style of storytelling?
Yeah, I think one of the really beautiful things about Wattpad is that it doesn't have to stick to a certain formula. It is meant to be that alternative space. You don't need a 50,000 word manuscript. You don't need a perfectly plotted out hero's journey or story arc, which you might need if you wanted to be traditionally published or go into like traditional development and entertainment. Wattpad is able to just be a container for creativity, however format it does. And so that serialized fiction is so that authors can continue their story without having to worry about having to get to an endpoint or having to get to a plot twist. And the readers are like along for the ride in that journey too. So I find that it makes it so that the stories feel organic to the author, and the writers can just again, find the stuff that they're really excited about. They don't necessarily have to be like, oh, here's the beginning, middle, end. They're along for the ride, and they're here to be entertained. And so it really does provide that alternative space that's a little bit different than what you'd see. And like, of course, a lot of our stories that we have been adapted. They've been edited. They've been like, shaped a little bit more. But you still have the Wattpad platform version, that like, organic, creative outlet that doesn't have to really follow any type of rules.
It's just whatever you decide it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think that the beauty of that is when we're looking for the next big thing, when we're looking for, what's going to hit, what's going to land, it's probably going to come from these alternative spaces, because it's going to be the thing that surprises us most. And so that's where with Wattpad, with my job and what I do every day, is really just keep an eye out for like what's bubbling under the surface. We will always have the traditional pipelines, and that's great, but we can also build out these fandom-driven, community-driven, audience-driven pipelines to see what else might there be and where can we be surprised.
Okay. I'm curious about your thoughts regarding creators of original IP who are opposed to the use of their work in fan fiction. Like we talked about before, they're the George R. Martins of the world. Yep. There are guys on my podcast who are opposed to it, and we kind of, like I said before, we kind of go back and forth. No, it's not bad because it expands the universe, it grows the fan base, it's good PR from a business perspective. And then there are those who are like, don't touch my stuff.
Totally. I get absolutely both sides of that argument. I do think that fan fiction at its core is by fans for fans.
Right.
So it's meant to be in that container of like, we love something so much and we are feeling inspired, so we are going to use our own creativity and just to like, be engage with other fans in that space.
Sure.
That's where like fan fiction is such a nice space where if you don't like it, you don't have to read it and you don't have to seek it out.
Right.
Nobody is asking you or putting it in front of you or doing anything like that. Really, it's for fans by fans. So, and that's where, it's like that ultimate love letter to their fandoms. But I don't think there needs to be an expectation that it has to be, brought up to the actual IP creator. They just don't have to see it. But it does do something really nice in building in community, for
Sure. How would you suggest someone promote their story, promote their art in a way that doesn't get lost in the gajillion people that are in part of the Wattpad community?
I mean, it's hard because writing, no matter where you're writing, is always going to be a grind. It is such an emotional and creative investment to be telling anyone's story. What I love about Wattpad and why I think it's such a flexible tool is that really it's there for any type of writer and any type of storyteller that is, you can write in a different format, you can write in various genres, you can mash genres together.
Sure.
I think it just starts from writing and writing what feels authentic to you and feeling open to engage with a community. Like, seek out the people that you think are, writing in that spaces. Writers love to be around other writers and should be talking to other writers. Like, we have a whole ambassador program, which are just volunteers who are just love the platform. They're readers and writers. They run contests all the time. They do sprints. They have tips and tricks. There's so much of just how do we get you inspired and how do we get you to feel like you have a home and a supportive community on the platform. That's really is what it comes down to.
Well, thank you very much for
so
being
much.
on, and enjoy the rest of the con.
You too.